Kla, great to see you, buddy. Ing, Soksan, Lina, thank you. Thank you all for coming today, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and begin, and then people can start joining later. And I believe a recording of this somehow will go online, but you don't get the Q&A or the engagement with the facilitator, myself, today. So let's go ahead and start. Right. So like I said, thank you very much again for coming, everybody. My name is G, and I will be your empathy at work captain this afternoon. And besides from leading with empathy, also the founding principle of the idea, the main organizer of the Pep Talks, which is Cambodia's first empathy-driven workforce forum, which is being held in September. So what we're planning on doing is hosting roughly one workshop every week to help develop underrated skills in the workforce or in the workplace, like what we're doing today. So this is aimed at managers and people who are in control of the environment that people are working in Cambodia. So to keep it short, we're going to start again right away. And firstly, I'd like to find out a little bit about you. So I'm going to launch a poll now just to see where everyone is from. So I'm going to share my screen first, because I just realized I wasn't doing that. It's a good thing we're right at the very beginning. So sharing my screen now and running the poll. So this is to make sure for me to see who is actually on Zoom and present as well. So there are just a few questions on there that you take. These are pretty quick. So where do you live? Where are you based? Phnom Penh, Siem Reap, Battambang, or somewhere else? Gender, I guess. And your line of business. For me, it's quite interesting to know, what sector you guys are coming from. Cool. All right, great. We've gotten people in multimedia, ICT, transport, other. So none of the other items that are covered here. So far, no one in trade, no one in insurance or banking, no one in food. Okay, interesting. Cool. Sorry, excuse me. I'm still recovering a little bit from post-COVID symptoms, so I will be coughing a little bit today. So forgive me for that. Where are you in the organization? Okay, we've got some founders, managers, officers, interns, and other. Okay, I'm gonna let that poll run for just a few more seconds as people are filling it out. And 3, 2, 1. If you haven't submitted, now is the time. And ending the poll. Okay, so that's good to know. So most of you are based in Phnom Penh. There's something like nearly 20% of the people here are from somewhere else. Okay, mostly male. Interesting, but almost fairly even. It's not like a huge skew. And most of you are in industries that are not even listed here, so that's interesting. And mostly managers, and what I see are executive officers. Okay, very good. So I'm going to stop sharing and go right into it. So we're going to go right into it. We're still doing some of the setup. We're going to hit 2 birds with 1 stone, or eat 2 cakes with 1 spoon, as I like to say, because it's more delicious and less aggressive as a metaphor. And this is to find out why everyone is here, but also to make sure that you are using this session best, and also making sure that you know how to use the tools that you have in front of you. I get very excited, by the way, when I do workshops. So if it's too fast, just put it in the chat. It's like, gee, slow down. You're too excited about empathy. So just put it in the chat if I'm going too quick. So you should see that either, I think on the bottom of your panel, it says chat. So that's where you should be doing this if you're not aware. And questions, do not put them in the chat because it's going to get lost, right? So put it in the Q&A. So that's the box that you add Q&A, and Varak will make sure that I answer those questions as we go along. And those are the main things that you need to do. And you've just done the poll function with me, right? But I will say that firstly, I'm assuming that we are all professionals here. So take your own notes and ask questions, because you have me for free for the next 2 hours. So use it well. Any questions that are top of mind, nothing is stupid, put it into the Q&A, and I'll do my best to answer that in the time that we have. Okay. Nice to thank you. I didn't do any gargling or voice exercises before starting, Akira, but it's great to have you here and that you are happy to hear from me. Okay, so moving forward, I would like to now know roughly where everyone is, how much they understand about empathy in the workplace. So I promise this will be the last poll for the next hour. So I'm going to launch one just to have an understanding of your understanding of empathy in the workplace. Whether you are fairly proficient, are you feeling like you're very confident in it and you understand and have the capacity to act with empathy, or you're like somewhat confident, not very confident, or not confident at all. Okay, so that poll should be there. Excuse me. Do you currently apply empathy in your workplace? Okay, very good. We're getting some answers through. And the last question is empathy present in your work-related tasks. Now, if you're not sure what that means, is whether you have empathy as a part of your process when you are working. For example, when you write an email, do you think about the person on the other side, and how much so, right? Okay, very good. Just roughly, we'll go, what, 15 more seconds for that poll. That's good. We have quite a variation of answers so far. Seems that most people are somewhat confident or they're not confident. We've got a few people saying they're very confident, which is great to hear. So far, no one has said not confident at all. So I'm very happy to hear, but also not surprised, because why would you join an empathy in the workplace workshop if you don't think it's important? So happy to see that there's none there. Okay. And likewise with the, do you currently apply empathy in the workplace? Okay, all right. And I'm going to close the poll in 3. Oh man, so many answers are still coming in. 2, 1. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and share it really quickly for everybody to see. Right, so there we are. So most people are in the medium range, it seems, and some people are not so confident. So I hope today is going to be very helpful for you. And also with how you apply empathy in your workplace. So that's good. And I am assuming that the people who are very confident are taking this also as a refresher. And I hope as well that there is something new that you can take away from today. Excellent. Okay. So right into it. We're still getting people coming in, but we had to start on time for those who have just joined because there's so much to cover today. And it's a really important topic. As you can see, 90% of workers, so this is a recent survey that was just done in Cambodia. So roughly 9 out of 10 Cambodian and expat workers expect their companies and leaders to talk about empathy and values. We can send that into the link later, but on the Leading with Empathy website, there was a Q1 report that was just released, and there will be a Q4 and a Q1 report that's coming out in the next week for empathy in the workplace in Cambodia. But what we found was like 9 out of 10 workers think it's important to explicitly talk about it. You actually need to not just act it, but you actually need to talk about it. So they think, oh, wow, like this is actually important because the boss actually said so, right? And for consumers, up to 70% of consumers are willing and able to pay more for brands and companies that they think are more compassionate, caring, empathetic in how they operate. And that's both inside and outside the company. So it's not just doing CSR, giving rice to some villages, but it's also being seen, you know, as empathetic in the way that you run your business, right? And you can see it because team members post about their companies on their LinkedIn or on their Facebook, for example, and people go, wow, that company must be really great to work for. Right. So what is empathy? We're going to cover that just really quickly here. Again, this is a session for mid-level professionals. So I'm assuming that you already have a rough understanding, but if you don't, we're going to cover it quickly. So in simple terms, it's a state where you can feel emotionally and even physically what another person is feeling from their perspective. But what is sometimes overlooked is that it's not your perspective. You're trying to get their perspective and not yours. And we're not covering this in this workshop, but there are different definitions. And in the West, there are three commonly accepted types of empathy. So cognitive, which is like thinking about what they're feeling. And then you've got emotional, which is feeling what they're feeling. And then you've got emphatic, which is knowing what they need, right? Which is quite logical, right? And that's the modern scientific academic type approach, which is observational. So we look at how empathy in the workplace is, and we say, okay, these are the different levels, right? Whereas in the East, and more specifically in like Japan, Cambodia, for example, we turn to Buddhism. And there are four attitudes to empathy, and that's metta, mudita, karuna, and upekkha. And they're both descriptive and prescriptive, whereas in the West, it's more descriptive because you observe and then you say what it is. But Buddhism is also religious. So you're also prescribing because it's a teaching, it's a philosophy. And not a modern science, but has literally thousands of years of sage insights in its development. But the way that we see it in the East is like, we talk of it more as like goodwill, right? So metta is the idea that you want everything it's the goodwill of happiness for you and for others. And it develops into like mudita, which is considering the goodwill, like you don't want other people to suffer. Karuna is with compassion. Upekkha is back to yourself again, making sure that when you are taking empathetic actions for others, that you are not sacrificing your own goodwill as well, which is, you see there's a difference between how it is talked about in the East versus in the West, right? So again, I said I wasn't going to cover it, but I digressed into that a little bit more than what I said I was going to. But more on that maybe another time. So what I want you to take away from this section here, though, is that it's not just about putting yourself in the shoes of others. It's feeling what they're feeling, and knowing as much as you can about what they need, but also realizing that you bring your own experiences and therefore your biases into that analysis. Because we're still looking at this from a manager's perspective in the workplace, is that you're expected to feel, and know the needs of your team members, your employees, even your boss, your customers. But you have to understand you are not them. You've grown up different lives. You see things differently. You understand colors differently even. And so just know that it is a practice that you need to take in order to increase that capacity, right? But just know that you always end up bringing your bias into your analysis when you make those decisions. So the best way to actually kind of show you about how it how it works in business, for example, and our experience, how it worked really well in Cambodia is with an example that we had right back when we opened the idea like 8 years ago. We're working with a pharmacy, which is now closed for internal reasons, but it's called Western, and it's a strong lesson in brand positioning as well, and how empathy is used in those tasks. So many years ago, when we were working with this pharmacy, they were coming out and saying, hey, we're reliable, trusted medicine. We are professionals, and we're trained pharmacists, and we're legit. We were tasked with marketing and launching their stores. And in my opinion, the first two store openings were a failure. They looked good, but the sales were low. Right. So we met some of the KPI. I mean, as a marketer, you're not expected to just make sales. That's the sales KPI. Marketing is to make sure that you get top of mind awareness, that people are aware of you, they engage with your brand, but ultimately the brand wants to make sales. And whereas the third one, I would say, was actually where we learned the lessons of the first two. So you see, there were lots of people, and, there's flowers, so people are coming, and it's making it about the brand. Okay, they do the ceremony, which is not, again, about the customers at the end of the day, because it doesn't solve their need. They don't link this kind of ceremony with buying their paracetamol or their vitamins, right? So all in all, though, it looked good, but it had very, very low sales, which was very unfortunate. Whereas the third one, it looked good and it had high sales. The approach was completely different, because we didn't make it about us. We made it about them. And it wasn't quite superficial in the sense of, hey, let's do discounts because everyone likes discounts. That is in some way, sure, like you're applying empathy and thinking, hey, this is what other people want. But when you think deeply about it, you realize that you're not potentially connecting with them as much. So I'll just say in this store, this one was the one that opened in Tutupong, and the approach was quite different because we were thinking, well, why didn't it work in the first two? Because who goes to a pharmacy grand opening? Like what is so exciting about getting paracetamol or your vitamins? It's not like going to the Starbucks opening and there's coffee or Krispy Kreme, there's donuts. That's exciting because it gets people like mouth watering, but medicine? So it was actually quite a hard task that we had. So we were thinking, well, what is our marketing objectives? Is to make sure that people are aware of where the store is. All right. That's the number one thing when you do an opening. We're here and come in, check us out. You can trust us. Right. So in order, that's really what we want. So what we did was thinking, well, people don't go to a pharmacy grand opening, but they're looking for something exciting to do. They're looking for activities to do. So back in 2015, this was 2015, we launched the first Tutupong Street Fair. We invited all the mall anchors to come and join the event. And again, applying empathy for them, we were saying, well, hey, look, we know what you need. We're not just going to invite your own customers in Tutupong out. We're also going to invite people from outside Tutupong so that you can sell to them too. Because isn't that what you want, to increase your customer base? They would say, yeah. So we charged them a very low rate, like $50 or less, to come and join and set up a table. But each of them represents their own customer base. So we said, hey, what would really support, and we'll give you a discount on your table, is if you shared this to your customers and bring them all out. So in the end, we had over roughly about 1,000 people walk through this 40-meter long tent, this little wedding tent, in the space of about 3 hours. And people came out and they had a really great time. They checked it out and they saw, oh, there's a pharmacy in here. And then what we did was we offered free blood pressure checks, bone density scanning. So people got one opportunity to have one experience with the pharmacist and start to build a relationship and say, hey, we're here to help you. Let's do a test. And we're not trying to sell you anything, because if you're healthy, great, you're going to find out, right? And if you're not healthy, well, let's talk about it, okay, and see what we can do for you. So this was the difference here. So this one here, why this was not successful, was because it was come and see this brand new pharmacy is fantastic, us. Whereas this one was more about you. Like, what can we do for you? What are things that you actually want to do? And we will make ourselves somehow a part of it, right? So that was the difference that we had in that particular example. Now, I just have to check, how was my pace? Can I just see in the chat? Slow down a little bit. Okay, thank you. That was a direct message. Thank you. And for everybody else, is the pace okay? Just put it into the chat. Should I slow down by like 10, 20%? Perfect. Thank you, Akira. Just okay. So far, so good. Okay, excellent. All good. Thank you very much for engaging there, guys. All right, let's move on. So the next thing we're going to do now is just a short activity. So this is where you get to speak up or add something into the chat. So I'm going to share with you guys a link, or we can do it together, on Mural, and it's a really great app, which we're going to put into the chat now. And you can join me here, but I want to hear from you guys what empathy in the workplace looks like for you, what you think it looks like. Okay, so I'm still sharing my screen, so you should be able to see this. You can start to join here. And if you're one of the fast training participants that we kind of get, you can go ahead and like double click, and then you can type an answer here. Or if you're watching on Zoom, we can do it together and you can put it into the chat box. Okay, so we're just going to spend a few minutes here, and I would like to take this opportunity for you to see that empathy in the workplace, when people think about it, they think it's really up and down the organization, especially with what's happening over in America with the Great Resignation or the Great whatever they're called now. The angle is that people, like companies, are not necessarily empathetic enough for their employees. So these employees are all resigning in huge numbers, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and lock everything, and you just have to double click and you can start typing. So this is the common understanding, is that usually people think, oh, the boss has to be empathetic to the staff. But the reality is that empathy is in any and every relationship that is within the organization and outside the organization. So you see here that it's from the company as the whole organization to its customers. It's empathetic practice from the organization to the employee. So the organization itself as a group, which is different to up and down the organization, because this is individual relationships. Because you might have different managers, and then you might have your top CEO, and each of their relationships are different to everybody, right? Because everyone's capacity is different. Between employees, between your colleagues, the organization to stakeholders, right? So this is, for example, your suppliers. This is maybe your government relationships and whatnot, your community, and of course, the employees to the customers. Right? So there are all these different aspects. So you can write it down, ideally, if you can, next to the column. Oh no, someone deleted that one. That one I think was organization to and my dog is barking for some reason. Sorry. So what do we got here? Checking in, okay, or checking out. Empathetic practice from organization to employee. Oh, we've actually already got that. The way evaluation reviews are conducted. Yes, that's a very good answer. Announcements by HR. Okay, very good. I'm not sure who answered these, but these are all very good suggestions. Yep. What about between employees? What have we got there? Some answers that we can check down. I'm just going to double check where everyone is floating on this. Okay, good. So you should ideally be in this activity. Okay. I'm assuming this one means checking in with each other. Yeah, how are you doing? Okay, very good. Checking in with each other. What are some other things that you guys can think of? You can add it into the chat or put it into Mural directly. Not judging each other. Okay, very good. Not judging each other. How? So for whoever answered that or put that answer there, what are some actions that you do to not judge each other? So I'll just give you some space to maybe flesh that one out a little bit more. Okay, no new answers yet. Okay, so I'm going to refer to the chat because I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we have about 16 people on this and like 5 answers. Okay, so maybe people are still thinking. Okay, listening. Okay. We don't have an answer yet here. Organization to stakeholders. So what are some things that we can be doing as a company to our suppliers or to our community? What are some empathetic actions that we can consider? What does that look like? Sharing out what's heard from customers. Excellent. Yeah. So listening to their feedback, their complaints. Right? And this is direct. So the employee will do this for the customer. So this is the person at reception, picking up the call, dealing with the customer directly. Okay, very good. Oh, I love that. Who is you? Slow to speak, quick to listen. Excellent. That's a fantastic answer. What was that? Demonstrate respect. Okay, demonstrate respect. I'll write that down for you, Rata. Although I think you can demonstrate respect for all across all of these. That's a very good one. We're going to spend, I think, just 1 more minute. Although now it's heating up, man. Like people are, yeah, this answer is lit. Good one. Oh, I said that we were stopping and everyone stopped typing. Okay, all right, let's move on though. But this is good. This is an excellent view of what everyone's answers are. Yep, and these are all very good answers. Recognizing emotions, checking in with each other, how we do our announcements, being good listeners. Excellent. You guys should run the session. I'm just joking. We're going to continue now. So I'm going to move us out of Mural. So I'm going to ask you now to come back and take a look at the presentation slide on on Zoom. Okay, so we've just finished this activity, the empathy in the workplace. What does it look like? Okay, what are some of the activities? And we're now going to go into the actual tips now, and I'm going to go through this section very quickly. So these first few tips are things that you actually already covered, and I will argue that, as you can see on the left side, it's stuff you should have learned at home and at school. It's not something I would say that the workplace, yes, we emphasize it. You have role models who show how it's done and encourage it. But at the end of the day, these are developed in the formative years of a child's learning. So in the first 7 years is actually when you really get these skills. For those parents out there, as hard as it already is as raising a parent, as raising a child, I mean, this is where most of those skills are learned. And this is why at the pep talks, the workforce forum, we're inviting, educators to come and talk about how are we best preparing, the future professionals. And a lot of this is really about what are we doing in school and what are we doing at home. Okay. Now I'm still seeing some random people on Mural. So I'm asking you to shift over now to the Zoom call. So the webinar. So the first one is active listening. I won't go too deeply into these. You should know what active listening is. If not, go and Google it, because I'm not covering it in this section because it's stuff you should have learned here. Human dignity. Now I will cover this a little bit more because unfortunately we're not in a place globally where we talk about it and where we actually think about it enough. But in an ideal world, it actually should be covered in school and at home. So for you as a manager, you have to think about human dignity. Are the rights of your employees met? And I'm not talking basic stuff like, oh yeah, we pay for NSSF and they get a salary and we make sure they have days off. And when they need to go to the bathroom, I'm like totally okay with that. They can go and use the bathroom. Sure, those are like basic human rights, but there's a lot of other ones that we don't necessarily think about, right? So for example, specifically in Cambodia and even in places like the US, minimum wages do not equate to livable wages, right? At $194 per month, which is the minimum wage in Cambodia, no, sorry, it's the minimum wage for the garment sector, but it's not the minimum wage everywhere else. There's common practice. For example, security guards, usually a minimum is like 160 bucks. But is that a life of dignity? Can you live a life of dignity with that? And the answer is no. You don't engage in tourism. You don't add meaningfully to consumer markets because you don't have the money to buy anything. You're buying only the basics to live. You can't afford proper healthcare. You can't afford an education. You can't afford to develop yourself. How can you raise a family on 200 bucks a month even? You can't, not really. And so we calculated that a single worker in Phnom Penh needs at least $550 to live with a life of dignity. And they're still not really engaging in meaningful market transactions. So until we actually pay people enough, the Cambodian local economy is not going to grow because we don't pay them enough. You compare it to Singapore, for example, which when they were first becoming independent, they had a GDP of about 2,500 per person per capita, and they went with an HR strategy to develop themselves. And then 20 years later, it became 16,000 per capita, and then 65,000 as of last year. Why? Because all that foreign investment came in, and it stayed because people were able to buy and sell from one another. But in Cambodia, we don't have the means to do this, right? So for you as a manager, just be considerate of the human dignity aspect, and it will really actually start challenging your values, your genuine inner values of saying, are we willing and able to pay people a bit more? Are we willing and able to offer them more that is not just the bare basics? Oh, they have a roof over their heads and they can eat rice all day. It's like, well, is that a life of dignity, right? And so I will mention that I'm not just saying that we should just raise wages. So this is just a disclaimer. There are many other factors in preventing that from happening, like traditional social practices, a lack of infrastructure, lack of public funding, lack of work experience, lack of a lot of value-added skills, because you don't want to just pay people more. They should be able to do more, right? So it's a bit of a chicken and an egg situation, although I'd argue that you actually just need to upskill people in order to get there. But for the point of this discussion of empathy in the workplace, what you control is the aspect of what are you providing is dignified work, okay? And I will mention here, there are some other things that you need to be considerate of, for example, in how they work. So if employees are needed to travel for their work, do they have a choice in the matter, right? And is it a part of their JD? Because if it is and they agree to it, and then yeah, for sure. But sometimes a lot of organizations just expect their staff to do whatever that they tell them to do. And that means they don't have a choice. And when you don't have a choice, you're forcing things, and that's not dignified work, right? I ended up spending a lot more time on that than I planned, but moving on. Sorry, excuse me. Now, giving space, this is mainly for white collar work. So like professional services, people who think, managers like yourselves. But it is to give space to let things sink in. That's one, but also to let them do their work. And it's the opposite of micromanagement, right? Can I just get a show of hands? Raise your hands. Who here has felt micromanaged before? Right. So right now we have just under 60 people in the webinar. So I'd love to see a raise of hands. Who has felt micromanaged in their work? Okay, so yeah. So we have Venus, hopefully not in your most recent job, I hope. 4, 3. Okay, so yeah, a lot of people here are saying, yeah, they felt micromanaged before. And it's not a very good feeling, is it? When you don't have that space and you're just being told what to do and every little bit of what to do very often throughout the day. It's not a very pleasant feeling. You don't feel like you have ownership and you don't feel like you have control, right? So that's something that you obviously want to avoid. So give space. Now, on the other hand, for yourself as a manager, it also means that you need to give space to yourself too. So my recommendation here is don't do back to back anything. Meaning, like, because nowadays a lot of work is still remote, and even though Cambodia is opening up, you're still using Google Calendar. Sometimes people see that there's a gap between a 9 and 10 because you've got an 8 a.m. and a 10 a.m. and they don't think, they just go, oh, he's got that 1 hour block, so I'll just book them in. And that's 3 hours of meetings or whatever. That's back to back to back to back to back. That's not giving yourself space to process what just happened. Do like a body scan and just make sure that you walk into the next meeting, whether it's high pressure, high energy, or lower pressure, low energy, that you adjust your energy before you go in. But in order to do that, you actually need to give yourself space. Okay, so that's 2 tips there. One was for yourself, give yourself space. Don't do anything back to back. And also for your team members as well, if you want them to feel like they have ownership in their work. Right. Now, this is the more technical stuff. Okay. And I would say one of the most powerful things that you can do, and a very simple, almost free thing that you can do right now, is to check in with people. Right. And it's one of the easiest ways also to gauge morale and happiness. And as difficult as it is to measure happiness, because, how do you measure happiness from one day to another for yourself, but also compare it between people? It's almost impossible to measure. But you can start to see, well, did I feel better than yesterday, for example, right? So, and did your team members feel better than the last time that they did this task, right? Was it easier? Was it harder? How did you feel, right? And so what we mean by checking in is actually doing it often, because what happens is that usually people expect to do these check-ins or performance reviews once a year. Some organizations who are a little bit more proactive do it quarterly. Some people do it every 30 days. But the best thing to do is just to check in and say, I'm not checking up on you. I'm not micromanage. I just want to see how you are. Like, how is this task going? How is the client at the moment? All right, cool. And is your workload all right? Are things okay there? Okay, cool. Oh, well, fantastic. Oh, it's too much or whatever. But you're getting that information. And you're also finding out at the same time a lot of operational issues that you might not have thought about, because you just assumed that people are doing their work because they didn't come and ask you. They didn't come to with a problem. They're not talking to you, and you're just assuming they're doing their job, right? It's actually a management error to be doing that. But on the other hand, in order to build a workplace of empathy, people feel like, yeah, my boss cares about me and he's just checking in. He's not always trying to give me advice. He's just saying, oh, like, how are things? And if there's a problem, well, great, good job, man. Keep it up. I just wanted to see how things were going. Right. And I think, yeah, like, thanks for checking up on me. Things are going well. Right. So that's the first one. I just want to make sure that I've covered what I wanted to say there. Yes. Okay, I'm going to move on. The check-in. Number 2, to develop more empathy in the workplace, is to encourage curiosity. And we covered how you encourage curiosity just a moment ago, which is to allow for free time and space, And two things. The first one is that for juniors, all right, so if you're a middle manager, and I'm assuming that you have rank and file or like new entry-level workers, you need to give structure to space. You need to tell them where their space is, because man, their minds are going left, right, and center because they've never worked before. They don't have a professional process because they don't have experience. And what's funny is that even senior people, I've noticed a lot of them don't even have professional processes. So a lot of the time you actually do find that you need to give space to people and define those boundaries. And so this is the space that you are in to go nuts, right? But for example, here are some sites that I go to. You probably have your own, but you know, if you're running out of ideas, here are some of the things that you can take. Here are some things that I do when I'm trying to be creative. But you're actively encouraging it, you're giving advice, but the number one thing that you do is give space, because if they don't have space, they can't do it. Speaking of which, I'm going to give you some space right now because I just spoke really, really fast and I spoke a lot. So just a quick check-in with you guys. How was the pace so far? Is the absorption of the information happening well? Okay, Rata, good, thank you. Good, all good, excellent. Okay, all right, well in that case I will move on. Now before I move on, I'm going to ask everybody to sit up nice and straight in your chair, or if you're standing. Okay, and we're going to do one short little breathing exercise. You're going to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose as well. Okay, mouth breathing is really bad, just so you know, if you're not aware. So we're going to do 5 seconds in, hold for 5 seconds, and 5 seconds out. Okay, are you ready? And 3, 2, 1, breathing in through your nose. 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, and out through your nose. 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can breathe normally, and just put your attention on your shoulders and realize maybe you had some tension here and you can just relax it. All right, so moving now your attention to your lower back. Okay, and releasing any tension that you might have there. Maybe organize yourself in the seat a little bit, right? And the last one, your jaw. This is where a lot of tension gets built up throughout the day. And some of you just had lunch as well, right? So that little practice there that we just did is called body scanning. And a lot of the time when we work, talk, do things throughout the day, we don't give ourselves the time to do a self check-in, right? And self-empathy is arguably more important because it's the first thing that you need to do in order to empathize for others. But we're going to talk more about that later. But how are you guys feeling? Do you feel a little bit more present, a little bit more relaxed after that little 30-second exercise? Oh, very quiet there. Just let me know in the chat if you are, but I'm going to move on. Okay, an excellent tip. Thank you, Akira. Right. Moving forward. Wow. Okay. Knowing when to get a grip. So this one is for junior leaders. Okay. Actually, it's for most leaders, I would say, but mainly for juniors, especially for the ones who are strong empaths. So that means that you are someone who empathizes strongly with others. And sometimes a lot of people, they come to me and they say, gee, how do you not over empathize? How do you not have over empathy, for example, for your employees or the beneficiaries that you have? Because it means that you keep wanting to give, you keep wanting to help, you keep wanting to help your friends or your family, and they keep asking you for help, and it doesn't seem to get any better. You need to know when to get a grip, right? To prevent someone else's emotional flood from overwhelming you. Because at the end of the day, in business, you have to make a good decisions, and good decisions are done non-emotionally. Because when you are sad, when you're upset, you maybe don't invest enough. You don't give enough because you're coming from a place of fear. Then you're too happy or too excited, you overinvest because you're like, everything is awesome, everyone's gonna make money, and you overinvest. Oh, crypto is going up, I'm gonna buy lots of crypto. and then you potentially lose a lot of your money. So um, it's important that you use empathy as a visibility tool, because empathy for managers gives you information to how other people are feeling, what they see, what they are doing, right? But most importantly, what their needs are. And when you have all of that information, you make such a better decision because you have information. Whereas before, you were in your head, you were looking at numbers, looking at spreadsheets, getting reports, but it's not the same thing as connecting with people and going, man, now I see what you mean when you gave me that answer before, right? Because I'm not the one dealing with customers, but you are, right? And when I hear it from you, and when I can empathize with you and empathize with my customers, I now know a better decision that I should be taking for the company, right? So this is one of the most important things that you can be doing, is knowing when to get a grip, right? And I will just mention, this is from the East, the Buddhism side of things. Um, when they say that there are 7 things that you should be considering when you are considering being generous or kind, or you're empathizing. Like I mentioned before, there is this aspect or attitude of goodwill, and you don't want to constantly offer or create goodwill for others while sacrificing your own. So there were seven tenets that they asked you to consider, and they were the cause of the. I'm just gonna make sure that I'm covering all 7, because right now I'm having a bit of a mental block. Um, but you're being aware of the cause, like what is the issue that created this need for some suffering, so that you need to offer more goodwill. What is the effect of it on the people around you? What's going on, and what does it mean for you, for yourself? Are you offering enough help, right? So is it reasonable? Is it adequate? Is it the right amount? So for example, like I'm in Poland, and we just took in two Ukrainian families, because one wasn't enough, to help. And because there's something like 2 million that have just crossed the border into Poland, and there's just not enough support for all these people who have lost their homes. They don't have houses anymore. They're bombed, and they've got no clothes that they can go back to. Some of them had to leave their dogs and pets and things behind, or their old grandmas who couldn't leave from the hospital, and they're stuck. And so there's a lot of people here offering help. And so when we offered help and opened up our home to 2 families who we couldn't even communicate with, because I obviously don't speak Ukrainian, and they couldn't really speak English. When they arrived, we thought, okay, great. We prepare the bed sheets and make a room. We clean it up. We're gonna put some plants, to make it nice for them. And then when we went shopping, I was like, man, whoa, actually, we're spending a lot of money, because I'm not buying for 1 family anymore. I'm buying for 3 families when we're buying all of these groceries. And that was something I didn't think about. I thought, yeah, I would just get food. And my boys, my sons are actually like currently allergic to dairy and eggs. And so we don't normally buy these things. But I was thinking, but their kids aren't. So I should, of course, I should buy that kind of stuff for them. And when I was reaching for some of these products, I was thinking, whoa, this is expensive, but do I just buy the cheapest thing that's on the shelf, or should I get something that's decent, because these are children that I'm also buying it for, because there were 3 kids and 2 moms, right? And they're growing children. And I was thinking, well, what is it? Oh, wow, what does it mean for me? They're staying with me. I guess they're under my care. And if they're under my care, I will do what's best for them. So can I afford it? Yes, it's not forever. I think I can afford it. So I'll buy a better quality bread, milk, eggs, or whatever, because their dads are fighting for their country and they're not here. And if their dad were here, they would probably want to get what's best for their kids. So I'll do that too. Man, there was so much introspection for me, in terms of what I was planning on doing when I was thinking about being kind and offering help, but also asking for help, because then I will move down that list now of the other items. You have to think of the occasion, the people surrounding you, and the people that you deal with as well. So they needed flights out of Poland to go to their family, and this was very expensive. So we asked for help, and other people were willing to help. So in the context of knowing when to get a grip, that's the first step. Is don't get over emotional about it. Know when to say, where do I stop? Where do I get some space to not have these emotions overwhelm my decision making? What does this mean for me? What does it mean for them? What does it mean for the organization and the things around? Because at the end of the day, you're still representing your company, and you don't have unlimited money, time, or resources, right? So this is, I would argue, is one of the most important tips that you should be considering when empathize applying empathy in your workplace. Right. How was that? Was that okay? Are we still all here? Checking in there, just add on the chat, or you can raise your hand, whatever's easier. I'll take a quick sip of water. Okay. All good. Please keep going. All good. Fantastic. All right. I'll continue then. So compassion over frustration. This is obvious, really, really obvious, but incredibly difficult to do, because it means the manager or whoever is a leader in your organization, including your rank and file, because they are leaders too, they have to get over those emotions and then choose a response. So not react. There's a difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is if someone slaps you, you punch them back, or you cry, or you shout. That's a reaction. And you feel. Feelings are reactions, right? And you don't usually get much of a choice about how you feel, because that's just who you are. And if you get punched in the face, you will feel pain, right? So that's a reaction. But responding is deciding whether you punch them back or saying, like, backing off and saying, hey, what's up? Like, I don't want to get into a fight, right? So that's a response. So you can choose compassion over frustration, right? And the fact that you even have this knowledge is a terrible curse, because you don't get to say to people now that I got into a fight with that person because they said my wife was fat. And you're like, wow, why do I not get to be angry about that anymore? It's like, because I just left the bar because I got into a fight and I've got bruises all over my face. And the reality is, I knew that I didn't need to fight back. I knew I didn't need to act on my anger. I knew I didn't need to do these sort of things, right? So I'll give you another story here that that I personally had in Cambodia with our Volunteer Nation team, where this was like a reverse leadership, because we have about 2,500 volunteers in Phnom Penh alone under Volunteer Nation. And back in 2018, we launched Under Armour, and it was very successful. So I told the team, everybody take some time off. You did such a great job. Take some time off. And the next day, I got a call from a senior official in the government that was saying, hey, we've got the Win-Win Memorial event. We have like 300 booths that we got to fill out, and it's in 3 weeks. And I was like, dude, I don't have a team. I just told everybody to take time off. I don't think we can do it. And he's like, okay, hangs up. And I get called back from this person's dad, who's an even higher official. And they said, no, you really need to support here, because this is for, a very big purpose. And we really need your help. You should really, really consider doing this. And I felt cornered because I didn't have a team, and I felt like I was angry. And I told Sutini, who was our Volunteer Nation president at the time, she was next to me, and she could see like, oh, like, what was that about? And I said, look, I don't know how to do this. We were supposed to recruit vendors. We're supposed to advocate for waste management at this big event. My goodness, sorry about my dog. And so she said, gee, don't worry about it, man. We got this. Like, we got this. It's okay. Like, no need to be angry or sad, or like, it's wasting time. We've got 3 weeks, man. Let me go talk to our volunteers, and then we'll make the event happen. And so I think 12 hours after, she had recruited 30 volunteers, and they went out with me. We were approaching all of our vendors. We got Wing, all these guys on board to come and join the event. And then from 4 a.m. to midnight for 3 days over New Year's, these 30 volunteers, or nearly 30, some of them couldn't make it all the time. But anyway, they turned up. They were in the sun. They were looking through rubbish. They were interviewing people about waste management. They created a report. But this was an excellent example for me anyway of reverse mentorship, and for you too, because your leaders are not always just the people at the top. They're also the people who are at the bottom, who are not just at the bottom of your organization, but people who are acting, and acting in their particular roles, but they are role models as well. And for me, that was amazing that the Volunteer Nation president inspired me and reminded me of the values that I should be exhibiting, of the actions that I should be taking as the top leader in our organization at the time, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities and a lot more visibility when you choose compassion over frustration. Because when you have frustration, there's really just one path. But with compassion, there's many other routes that you could be taking, right? So when it happens to you, when you're in a situation as a manager and you're angry, just remember that there's actually so much more to benefit for you and the organization and that other person if you choose compassion. And the key word there is choose. You are choosing to do something. You are an adult. You're not a child anymore. You are choosing to do things, right? So moving on. This one here is about creating a values document or a culture deck. I need to ask my colleagues if we're open to sharing ours later, but there's tons of examples. The Netflix culture deck, I think, is the most famous one. It's old now, but you can go back and take a look. And they did it kind of like this. There's not even any graphics. It was just an empty blank slide with text on it. Excuse me. And so it's asking the right questions. And what we mean by co-creating, though, is that asking the right questions to everybody in the organization. What does it mean, hard work, to you? What does good quality mean to you for this department, for that department, for this person, for the cleaner? Because everybody's answer comes together and they create what a founding document is for your organization, right? Because now everybody is on the same page. If you look up on the top left in the Leading with Empathy logo, this is why we decided with that new icon, was because everybody is their own circle and they bring a part of themselves to the center. And that's what your company is about. All these people coming with their values, their understanding of what turning around work means, of what good customer service means or whatever, and coming together. But unfortunately, most companies are not on the same page. You've got some departments who are doing very well, so they've got a fantastic synergy in the center, but this other departments, they think it's over here. This is what they think the business should be doing. And very rarely do you find organizations that are completely in the center, that are completely aligned and have balance, right? And in order to do this, you need to co-create that document. So asking some really great questions about the pillars of your organization, about what your brand stands for. Ask questions on those areas and then say, I'm going to give you about a week and I want you to write down what your answer is. And sometimes they're going to come to you with really fantastic answers. Other times, most of the time, from my experience in Cambodia, unfortunately, is that they don't. They offer a one-word answer or they offer an answer of less than 10 words. And it's your job to flesh that out. Don't be angry and say, oh my God, they don't care. Well, I don't know if they don't care. If they don't care, they would just ignore you, right? Maybe that's just all they think it is. They're not you. There's a reason why you are the manager and the owner and the founder, and they are not, right? It's because you answer questions more, you have more education, more experience, more skills. So you cannot expect, your rank and file to offer deep and meaningful answers to things like this. You are now expected to guide them. You're choosing now compassion to say, I'm not going to assume that you didn't try to answer that. So let me sit down with you and let's go through that answer. So when you said, what does good quality work mean? You said, it's tasty. Let's pretend it's a food and beverage company. It's tasty. It's like, well, what do you mean, like, tasty? It's like, oh, it tastes good. It's like, okay. And what else though? Like, taste for who? It's like, well, taste for our, I don't know, taste for our customers. And what about the size of the food? Do you think it's enough? It's like, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that. And just the action of doing this is aligning those interests so that you find that get into the center, right? So a lot of communication, but it's worth it because the moment that person gets aligned with you, every step they take every day from now is aligned, strategic. Everything that they do, every time they turn up to work is now, and every action they take is now helping your strategic goal and objectives. But without that alignment, it is random. Some things are like, maybe I think this is what good quality means. I think this is what fast means. I think this is what good customer service means, but it might not be for you. So the sooner that you do something like this and apply empathy and remember that you are not them, and then you need to ask them what they think, is when your strategy is actually going to be much closer to being accomplished, right? So co-creating a values document or a culture deck, very, very important. Okay, now these are actual activities that we're going to move on to. So let me just do a light check-in. How was that? Is the pace okay? Should I stop asking you pace? Because at the moment, everyone's saying the pace is okay. Okay, I'm gonna move on. So we're gonna do some activities. There is an employee journey map that we're gonna do one now. And we're also gonna do a paraphrasing exercise. I would argue that these two are some of the most important things that you as a manager can do in your organization. So there's creating a culture deck, there's three, creating a cultures deck, doing an employee journey map, and learning, practicing how to paraphrase. And this one is a life skill. I think everybody should learn how to do this. So there's two exercises that we can do. What do we say there? Aligning values and thinking process, making visible assumptions and where things aren't clear and clarify them together. Excellent. That's a good answer there, Akira, on the chat. That's exactly what is the right way forward to align. So paraphrasing means rephrasing what someone else has said, for example, all right, or and putting it in your words, all right? So there's a concept, there's a dialogue, and you're thinking about it and it's coming out in your words. So it's to practice, for me though, in this situation, it's practicing the unsaid. So something that you should be saying to somebody, but you didn't because you're like, oh, I'm too busy, or I don't want them to get angry, or like, oh, I just can't be effed, I don't want to do it. Like that's when you have the unsaid stuff that you should be saying, but you don't, or they should be saying and they don't, maybe because they're scared or whatever. Okay, so there's one exercise there. The other exercise is in giving meaningful praise. Okay, and we're going to choose because we don't have enough time to do all three. So we're going to do just two of these. So I'm now going to move us back to Mural. So for those who are on that link before, you just come back. And I'll show you three examples of a journey map. So this is the one which HR consultants would normally get paid to do for you. Something nice and pretty, you know, you go to McKinsey or whatever, and they're like, whoa, we're going to make you an employee journey map. And so there are usually three things that they consider. There's like desired outcomes. What does the recruiter want, or what does the recruitee want? What are their pain points and how are they feeling, right? So their stages are like looking for a job, applying for the interview, they go to work, they advocate, right? And what are they looking for? And this is quite basic. I'll tell you that this is nice because it's helpful for, like, again, junior level HR professionals. But once you're a bit more senior, right, and you want to create great culture, you want to make a really tight working process, this is not enough, right? So I'm going to show you two other ones, and I've got one which we're going to do an activity on. Okay, so I'll leave that for later. And follow me here to the one that says humanitarian aid organization. I want to summon all of you. There we go. So this one here is more along the lines of how like an app development company will go about developing a journey map. They would look at the day-to-day and they would like note down the actual steps that that person is taking in the position or in the stage where they are, right? And why is it important that you go to such detail as an HR professional? Not everybody has to do this, but this is an understanding of whether you're providing work with dignity. So for example, if you're making a decision about should we do bring everybody back to the office now that Cambodia is opening up, should we offer hybrid, should we stay doing remote, you should come to, for example, the beginning of the journey, because how does it affect your team? Right? You have one decision, which is maybe taking you 30 minutes to an hour to decide, but it's going to potentially add hours and hours and hours of commute time for 300 other people, or however many people are in your organization, right? That's the reality, is that maybe 1 hour of decision making for you is adding hours away for everybody else because you said, I don't care. Everybody is walking back to the office now. And now they have to travel in the traffic, extra hour for each and every one of those people. Right, to get to the office and then get back. 2 hours of their life gone from the best time of their lives, right? Because you said without thinking or assuming that everybody wants to be on that same page, for example, right? So a journey map like that helps you understand, like, what is my employee going through in a day, right? And you can ask so many questions around this. One is, how do our HR policies impact the lives of our employees? Very empathy-driven question. Second one, how are we ensuring the efficiency and productivity with our employees and their experience at the work? How are we designing our office so that they are being as productive as they could be, right? Like from getting into the office, are we making sure that they have the right tools, the meeting spaces? Is it too loud, right? Because each and every one of these things, when you add up the 30 minutes, 1 hour a day for all of your employees for a year, it's a lot of lost productivity and a lot of money. right? And so this is why there's so much investment going into employee journeys, going into HR consulting, is because companies are the right companies are fully aware of how much hours and productivity is lost, right? And instead of maybe being frustrated because you couldn't get the meeting room on time or because it's loud, you design it so that there is a space so that they are in between meetings, or whatever. Maybe they are more productive. But the idea is that you get this information to make a better decision. And how? By looking at the journey map, asking empathy-driven questions, like the ones that I just shared with you before. Okay. Right. So now we're going to go into this journey map as an example. And I'm going to ask you guys a question and just go ahead and answer on the chat. So before beginning this activity, this employee journey, why is it important to consider the rights and dignity of our team members and potential recruits? And we talked about it before, but I just want to check in if that stuck because it's one of those really important messages, particularly for Cambodia. So anybody, feel free to go ahead and type in the chat. Why is it important to consider the rights and dignity of our team members and even potential recruits? I'll give you a couple of seconds or something while I drink. Why is it important to think about their rights and dignity? When I say it like that, it sounds like, why wouldn't we? It's a ridiculous question, but many organizations don't. Or they think they do, and they don't do it enough. Any takers? We have like 50 people here. If this was an in-person seminar, this would fill out the whole room. So I'm sure someone would have for an answer. So, or maybe I should give you more time. I'm also just checking the Q&A, but there are no questions yet. So if there are any questions, just a light reminder to put it into the Q&A. By thinking, okay, thank you, Akira, by thinking consciously about it, it will become obvious that many of us really don't. That's right. We need to think about it because we realize all the things that we are not doing for them, because it shows who we are by how we act on others. An excellent answer as well, Vyasna. It's portraying your values as an individual and an organization. Right. Well, it is the right thing to do when you think about the rights and dignity of others. I think the first answer that I was expecting was so that you don't get into legal trouble. That should be one of the first things as a company is like, well, I don't want to get sued. And I don't want the MOL to come knocking on my doors. Are you paying for NSSF? What, your team don't have insurance? What if they get hurt in your company? What if they cut their finger off while baking bread for you in your office? Your customer walks in or whatever. This is crazy. Have you prepared a first aid kit anywhere? Does anybody know what to do if someone has this? So I mean, and that's really basic, extreme situation, but it's not like it will never happen. Can we put that question, how to fire an unproductive team member, into the Q&A? Because that's a very good question that we should get to in a moment. Okay, very good. So I'm going to move on now onto the actual journey. So I'm going to show you the stages that we have here on the horizontal axis are the same as the ones that are over here, except a bit more in depth, right? There's recruitment, interview, offer rejection. So they get offered, they get rejected, they get onboarded. Then there's their first 30 days. And the first 30 days is an experience, that's high stress. Am I doing it right? Do people like me? Like, so many things. And it's part of probation, but it's not necessarily the same stage, right? Anyway, moving on. Then they get their offer. Maybe they negotiate. Maybe they get rejected. And then you have periodic reviews, contract renewal, promotion, exit, right? And this is just the basic steps that you have. For your organization, you might have more, might have less. So we're going to go through 2 as an example here, okay? So here under recruitment, the purpose for the organization to recruit is, firstly, is to bring awareness to the job opening and identify the best potential candidate for the role, right? So that's for you. That's what you're thinking about. But if you don't empathize for the recruit, you realize that you might be making a mistake on this side, because when I was actually writing this out, the first thing that I wrote was to get a job. And unfortunately, for most people, yes, to get a job. But what is your purpose? Is to identify the best potential candidate. So you're looking for recruits whose purpose is to identify a great organization and advance your career. How much time does that save you that you've just decided, you know what? I don't want people who just want to do this for a job, because I don't want to keep recruiting and training people and firing people. I want people who are who give a damn about my organization, right? So that is the purpose for you, for your employee journey, right? You want people who are looking for that. And that helps you design your ad. It changes everything about your ad. You're not just saying operations manager position available, start date, here date, compensation, expected skills. Then you're getting people who are just getting a job, because all you did was put up a job ad with just the basic stuff. If you were looking for people that were, sorry, excuse me, looking for a great organization to work for, your captions, the way you design your ad would be looking for a star, I don't know, business manager that wants to work for Cambodia's best something company, and show that they have the best, I don't know, operational skills, I don't know, whatever. But you would change how you are writing your job ad, and that would stick out to people who go, yeah, that's totally me, right? So already there's an opportunity for your employer branding and your brand positioning, plus your recruitment, just by just asking these two boxes. But there's more. So how does the recruit feel at this stage? Stressed. Of course they're stressed, because it's like, oh, job interviews and things. What are their pain points? And I just offered two. There's much more, but there's two as an example. Unsure which organizations are good, given all the recruitment ads, all the marketing. How do they know which is actually a good company to work for? They're also unsure if they have all the skills needed. And I'm sure many people feel this. You look at a job ad and you go, whoa, some things are good. Yeah, the others, I'm not very strong. But I'll put it on my CV anyway, and hope for the best. Right. So unsure if they have all the skills needed to have their dream job, despite having great willingness. So what is an opportunity for you, though, right, as the manager? So one is that you can communicate that you support workforce development by offering internships, because this actually happens to do for both. Is that if you don't have the skills, but hey, we've identified that you are looking here for a great career, then amazing. We will be offering you an internship maybe, or we'll offer a fantastic here onboarding and training program. If you don't have the skills, but you are someone with great potential, don't stress. Apply anyway. All right. And if you do get it, we will make sure that you have those skills. Why? Because we care about you. And we want you to succeed. We're successful when you're successful, right? That's the kind of organization that you want to work for, that you go, wow, that's awesome. Right. So that's one example in this whole stage in the employee journey that you can see, that you can maximize how you are recruiting, who is in your organization, but also how you present yourself to the outside world. Right. That's one stage. A stage that I actually just did with my own team very, very recently was with the periodic reviews. I'm just going to go ahead and unlock these. Oh, no, I'll keep it locked. How are we for time? Okay, I'll use this as an example actually for those who are on Mural and want to answer. So if you're on Mural, you have two options. You can follow me, or you can pick one of these stages to do. Okay, and we're going to do one together right now. We're going to do a demo. So put in the chat here, guys, about which of these stages, and whoever answers first, we're going to go and do that one. Okay, so interview, offer rejection, onboarding, first 30 days, probation, offer probation. Okay, excellent. Viesna, you are the winner. Probation, as you said. Okay, no, probation, I know. So, sorry, for the organization, we're going to do it together. What is the purpose for the company? So anybody in the chats or anybody on Mural, go ahead and you can try and answer that. Let's talk about probation. What is the purpose for the company? Why do companies bother with probation? Why not just skip all this and offer the job right away? Why should we spend all this extra time and stress out potential potential recruits with probation? Okay. Any sorry, excuse me, guys. I'm still recovering from the coughing. But yes, any answers yet? Why do companies do probation? Okay, very good. Someone's typing. A spider is typing. Excellent. Oh, you know what? I love it. I love, you see the mural people? They're already going ahead and adding it in. I love it. That's awesome. Okay, so we've got someone writing it in, I'm assuming the visiting elephant, visiting rhinoceros, are filling out in each section here. Oh, no, they're not. I think everybody is writing for probation. Okay, no worries. One word answers. Not awesome, but okay, we will. Oh, you know what? We don't need to do that because people are filling out these things. We got evaluate, yes, evaluate candidate performance, and to make sure employees understand the job clearly. Yeah, very good. I love it. The elephant's already moving on. So very good. Those are good answers. I'm going to copy and paste this one here. All right, because these are for this. Okay, I would say that's about right. For the organization is to make sure employees understand the job clearly, evaluate their performance, and reduce financial risk. Right, this is the big one for the company. As the owner, you don't want to like invest so much time, effort, training, and money for someone that you don't want to keep, and that's why probation is got a lower um, um, notice period, right? For like after like a probation, you have to give what, 30 days, 90 days, 70 days. But during probation, it's like 1 week, 2 weeks. Why? Because if someone isn't performing well, you do not want to keep them, especially if they're poison for the company. If they're very toxic people, you want to go, you know what? Here's your 1 week notice. But if you want to, like, don't come back tomorrow, and you actually have some grounds to be able to do this. So probation exists for both ways, right? It's for the organization to manage their financial risk. Now, what about for the recruitee, right? What is it the purpose for them? Yes, great answer. Does he or she match the culture? Excellent answer there. Now let's move on to the potential recruit. What is the purpose for the recruit? You just have to spin it around, because it's also important for them too. Probation, definitely the benefits are I would argue a little bit more for the company, although because the risks are with the company. They're the one having to spend the money, they're the ones investing, and there's an opportunity cost. Maybe they could have hired a different candidate instead, but they went with this person, right? Oh, I love it. You guys are awesome. Finding out if I like working here. Yeah, I like that you said that in first person, because it's so much more powerful when you write it as if you're saying it, and empathy works stronger that way when you use emotional words, and when you say it like that. So that's fantastic. That's a very good answer. Making sure that they're doing the job. Okay, that was from the previous answer. That's excellent. Okay, how does the recruiter, so this is good. That's exactly right. How does the recruit feel? Oh, this is the answer from before. How are they feeling? The visiting spider is back. Honeymoon period. Oh, really? Okay, that's good. That's good. I wasn't expecting that, Mr. Spider or Mrs. Spider, or however you choose to identify yourself as a spider. Okay, honeymoon period. What else? Because I believe that for some people, it's not just a honeymoon period, although I think for many it is, like, especially if it's a dream job, they're like, I can't believe I got it. But ironically for my team, they none of them said honeymoon period. Maybe in the first like 2-3 days. Definitely in the first day. I think in the first 12 hours or 24 hours is honeymoon period. But the moment that they step into work, Pressure to perform is what I have personally found with yeah, they feel nervous because usually, but it's true, there is certainly honeymoon period, but usually they're afraid. It's like, oh, I have to fight to actually get the job offer. I don't have the job yet because I don't have the job yet. It's just probation. I don't have the permanent contract in my hands and it's not signed. So that's that. And what are their pain points? So fear of judgment. Excellent. I love it. Whoever wrote that, that's excellent. Fear of judgment. What are the pain points that they have? Because they are coming out from a place of fear. Yeah, fear of not belonging. Oh, legit. Such a good one. What else? For not, I think both of these are from Akira actually, but let's move on. I want to talk more about the actions there because pain points come from sometimes you doing something and then you get stuck. All right, but you doing something comes from a place of fear or a place of like love and confidence, but unfortunately most of the time their actions and thoughts, they're coming from a place of fear. So what are some of the things which they block themselves? I'll go ahead and answer just for time. Sometimes, oh wait, because of fear of judgment, I don't ask for help in case they think I am not competent, right? Not asking for help was a big issue. What are some of the other things that come up? Trying not to stick out, or even the opposite of that as well. That's great. Yeah, trying not to stick out too much, absolutely. Or sometimes trying too hard to stick out and show that you're worth it. You know, you could do all these other things. Right. Trying too hard. Not being authentic, not being yourself. Right. So as an organization, what can you do to alleviate some of these things? Because you want to make sure that your probation period isn't like a marathon of a stress test, 3 months of stress for this poor person who was working for you. What are some things that you can do to make sure that they are successful during the probation? Surely you want that person to win, right? Because you already selected them. You have to go back to recruitment and job ads and all that again. And then this person is like, oh, I didn't get it. I never want to work for you again, or whatever. And it's a waste of time for the organization. 3 months to not have the right candidate. You want them to work well. So what can you do? Excellent. Weekly, monthly check-ins. Excellent. Set a clear expectation. Oh, I love it. That's a very good answer. Set clear expectations, and you can do that by checking in. Work buddy. Yes. Who is the visiting cat? I don't know. Wrong. I love it. Wrong. You are right. Yeah, that's a very good one. Okay, cool. So I'm not going to go too much further into this. You have an understanding now, I believe, of how to do your own journey. Okay, I believe that we could. This is going to be online, so you can use this as in your own time, but you can do it on Mural. I didn't use a fancy software. I mean, I did this on Mural, but you can do this on PowerPoint. You could do it on Excel. You could do it, in any format, as long as you can write and you have space to do it. I would argue that Excel might even be better because here you see it starts to get a little bit messy and there's like lots of really great answers, and they don't necessarily fit in those silos. But when you do an employee journey, man, you are getting to the bottom of things and you're getting to actual things and actions that you can take now as a manager to have empathy in your workplace, right? By checking in, by saying, hey, there was a few recruits that happened at the same time. I wouldn't even do that. I would pair them. I would buddy them with someone that actually has work experience, so that there was like almost a little mentorship program going on there, right? Excellent. Okay, so we're going to move on from this. Okay, so I'm going to resummon everybody. We're now going to do a quick vote for on Zoom now as to which exercise we're going to do next. We're going to do. We only have time for paraphrasing or paraphrasing anger or giving praise. So I'm launching the poll now. Do a quick vote. We've got like, do it quick. There's only one question. It's like, sorry. 10 seconds to vote. Do you want to do anger or do you want to do praise? It is like almost 50-50 at the moment. Sorry about that. I keep clearing my throat. I hope it doesn't destroy your ears. Wow, guys, we're still at a tie. It's a complete tie. It's 50-50. So we need a few more votes, guys. Okay, in 3, 2, 1. Okay, and the winner is still 50-50. Okay, 40-60. It is giving praise. Okay, sharing the results just so you know that I'm not like skewing it, but this is it, 40-60. Now, but I will just briefly cover paraphrasing anger, just so that we touch on it a little bit, but then we're going to go into the giving praise. Okay, so paraphrasing anger, I said before, it's firstly making sure that you don't pick frustration over compassion, right? You want to be compassionate. But a lot about paraphrasing anger is to make sure that you say the things that you are supposed to say, so it doesn't become what we call the unsaid, right? And the unsaid is what you should say, but you don't, or what they need to tell you, need to say to you, but they don't, or they don't ask. Maybe because they don't know how, they're angry, they don't know how to deal with their emotions, okay? And the steps for doing this. Now, there's a book called NVC, Nonviolent Communication. I highly recommend it. And a lot of this process that I'm about to show you has actually come from that, okay? But I've sort of done my own because it was how I understood, branched out. So the first thing is to observe, right? Facts and feelings. All right. So something happened, there's conflict, there's frustration, and you go, okay, well, what happened? And how am I feeling? Right? Because you cannot empathize for others without first having empathy for yourself. Because empathy is like a type of energy, right? Because when you realize that when you have compassion for yourself, you have a standing point, you have a foundation to do it for others. But when you are really low and you just don't have the capacity to do so, and you don't even want to try, you realize that, well, I need compassion, picking compassion for myself, right? Because you cannot be compassionate for others without having compassion for yourself, right? Surely. So the first thing is to check in, and you check in with you first, okay? And then you look at the needs of both parties. Oh, what do they need? What are they asking here? So this is the active listening part. Then what do I need, right? And come up with a solution to find common ground. Is it fair? It might not be equal, but is it fair? And then you ask, well, what do we do this? What can we do that? Right? Like what solutions, whether we could do this or that. So what solution can you offer? And then when you start executing, you always reassure, right? You check in. And those 10 steps, actually those 5 steps are actually broken into these 10 steps here a little bit more clearly as to what you can do. But again, sorry guys, we're not actually going to cover it this time. I'm sorry. We're going to go into praise. So why should we be paraphrasing praise? And actually, more specifically, why is giving praise reducing empathy in the workplace instead of making more empathy in the workplace? Why is saying more thank yous worse than saying less thank yous, right? Or saying less thank yous meaningfully? Is that it's disingenuous, meaning it's not sincere. After a while, all this like thank you, all this praise is like, oh, whatever, like it loses its meaning, right? And people don't feel that you mean it. This is the real issue. They don't feel that you mean it, right? And you think that you haven't taken the time to hear or understand them, or let alone really, really appreciate them, which was the whole point of giving praise, was so that you can appreciate it, right? And if they feel that you don't really appreciate it, even if you said thank you, it's like saying thank you, right? You don't feel like, well, I don't think you meant that, right? It's insincere. It actually does the opposite of what you want. So how do you give praise in a way that's sincere and careful and that's effective and productive? So there are some steps, and you need to be smart, and actually you need to communicate very well, okay? So the first thing you need to consider is the specific actions you appreciate from your team, right? So an example here for me was when I want to thank my team because when they asked me how I am, even though I haven't spoken to them in a long time. So that was the action. I had to think about it, like, what am I actually really thanking them for? And for me, it was like, I like that they checked in with me. And yesterday, one of my team members checked in. They said, how am I? They didn't actually respond to my message, but actually to the reply. But I like that they actually said, hey, how are you? And I thought, thank you for caring about me, because it doesn't have to just be the boss asking the staff, how are you all the time. It's a two-way relationship. It's a relationship. It's two-way. So they should also be asking. And you want to encourage that because they are going to be a boss one day in the future too, if you have good succession planning in your organization. So appreciating. And then now you're thinking about what needs are being met. So a need for support and appreciation, that the team is not only working without direct guidance right now, but they're expressing care as well. So maybe in a simple word, it's like cooperation or it's appreciation, you know, this is, and it's belonging of some form. So what are the needs that you have? If you are stuck, there is a link here from the NVC guide that you can go to for specific words that you can look to for what core needs are. And it's a great, great resource. Like I would totally go and use it. Now, feeling, empathy, feeling words. Are you relieved? Are you feel secure? Are you sad? Are you upset? Are you angry? Are you happy? This should be easy, your feeling words, right? And then you write the praise sentence, right? So for me, I would say, for example, hey, thanks for checking up on me. I've been quite bogged down with work and haven't had the time to check in with you or the other team members. And when you checked in on me, I felt relieved, and I didn't realize I was holding the stress that you guys might think I'm neglecting you or worse. So again, look, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. Right. So this is an example of how saying like, hey, like a giving praise would actually look like something meaningful. So they go, wow, like I get it and I can connect with you. Instead of, I'm good, thanks. Or thanks, man, which is usually what you get because they're busy. Noted. Or noted with thank, whatever that I see quite often. So that is not okay. And actually, unfortunately, this happens so often. I encourage you to go back and check your chats with your team members and see if you're actually doing this or not. Yeah, that's how you would actually go about doing it. Unfortunately, I just realized we have 3 minutes left. Okay, so I encourage you guys to spend this 3 minutes to try your best to come up with a sentence, and I will help guide you and maybe help correct you and paraphrase with you. Paraphrasing is hard. It is so hard. It's like copywriting, and you need to do what we call KYD, which is to kill your darling, which I think was made famous by Hemingway, an author, because your first draft is never perfect. Of course, it's not perfect. It's your first time writing that. So usually by the third one, you've got an act like a really good one, right? So for me, whenever I write my LinkedIn post, for example, I write like 2 or I write 3, and then usually it's the third one I found that actually works the best, right? So this is what we mean by paraphrasing. You're also paraphrasing yourself. Okay. You know what? Man, I hate that we didn't have time for this, but I actually think we need to go into the Q&A because I just remembered that we have 2 questions to answer, and I want to do that. So I'm going to stay some extra time, maybe an extra 30 minutes. I know that we've now officially finished the time for the workshop in like 2 minutes. But for those of you who are not interested in the Q&A, I'm staying on the mural board, so you can go ahead and write, and we can still work on paraphrasing together. For the others, let's go into the Q&A. Okay, I'm going to take a quick drink while I read. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, anonymous attendee. How to guide your team to jump out from their comfort zone without talking to them. Okay, we just want to show them by our actions without talking directly to them, and they can learn from our actions how to act actually. I have a question. Why would you do that without talking to them? Like, what is the purpose of this? And if you want to answer that anonymously, you can message the Facebook page if you want, if you don't mind, because I realize that you're writing that you're anonymous here. But the first thing I would say is that you need to communicate. Communicating is not just your body language and text, but I guess text is talking for you potentially. But you need to set that expectation, and it's impossible to set expectations without communicating. And even though acting as a role model and leading by example is a form of communicating, it's not direct. And remember that you are not the other person, so they don't see things the way that you see things. You might think that, okay, stepping out of your comfort zone means in a meeting, answering a question or speaking up on a topic that you are not very familiar with, and you say, hey, like, I'm not like an expert in this, but my opinion on that, just from the little experience that I have, is this. And I hope you don't mind. I do feel a bit nervous offering this answer, but I want to be able to contribute somehow. That is still being direct, and you're communicating. Other people have to hear that this person is stepping out of their comfort zone, because they would have no idea if that person was stepping out of their comfort zone or not, right? So the first thing I would say is that you should be actually communicating that way. Right. So if you want your team members to do so, that's how you go ahead and do it. I like Akira's answer here. What comfort zone would you be willing to step out of yourself? So yes, reflecting for yourself first, because when you lead, it's not about you, but it is about you. It is completely about you, because you need to do it first, right? So yeah, an excellent answer. I hope I answered your question, Anonymous. But my pushback to you is that you should communicate, because you cannot mind read the other person. And if you want everybody to step out of that comfort zone, then you got to say it and you got to do it. Like I mentioned right at the very beginning, 90% of workers expect their leaders and their companies to explicitly talk about empathy and values. They don't want you just to act it and be like, hey, we're going to a village and doing stuff like that. They want you to actually speak about it in an organization, so if people feel like they can engage in it, right? Because if you do it, then you are doing it, but they are not doing it. So how are they engaging in it? Because if they don't engage, they don't practice. If they don't practice, they're not doing it, right? So it's important that you offer that opportunity to let them engage with it slowly and learn. For those of you who are not in the learning sector, there is a 7-20-10 rule, where 10% is theory, 20% is social learning. So that's like us doing this, talking about it, encouraging each other. And then 70% is application, right? And you want them to have the application, but without the 10% of talking about it, they won't know how to apply it, right? And then the 20% of social sharing, that's communicating, that's the talking. And you need to go in that order. So 10, 20, 70. Okay. Great. Let's move on. So how do you communicate expectations for employees to be more proactive as opposed to reactive, so that I, the manager, don't have to micromanage? I love that you asked that question. So you need to create a safe space, essentially. So we are quite fortunate, let's say, the idea that our team members actually come to us for 30-day reviews. Firstly, we do tell them, hey, we see this as a two-way street. Remember back in the recruitment phase, it's not just us interviewing you, it's you interviewing us, right? And just know that we are now setting that expectation from the very beginning, that this is the kind of company that it is, that you are consenting and choosing to work here, right? And you are helping us. That's why we're hiring you, is because you have skills that we need in order to produce this product, to create this service. And we need you. Without you, we can't do this, right? So what are we doing for you to make your job better, right? And so you need to tell us when things aren't going well, right? You have to tell me. If you don't have enough budget, tell me. If your computer is broken, tell me. Why? Because every minute, every hour, every day that is not working, we are losing money. So talk to me, all right? Every 30 days, if I haven't come to you, you come to me. Deal? Right? So that's my way of speaking, though, right? And it works for me. And the team members come and we talk a lot about development, but we also talk about the processes that don't work at the company. And I don't take it as like a emotional criticism, like, what do you mean that this process sucks or whatever, What do you mean by that? Our company is perfect. You're stupid. You're wrong. No, like, we also have to have that self-respect, reflection, and remember, we are also a work in progress. None of your SOPs are perfect. They're never perfect. SOPs are procedures, but procedures always need to be reviewed. That's why they expire. And if your SOPs don't expire, you need to expire them, because you need to check if your SOPs still work or not. But you got to expire them. Anyway, so that's how you communicate expectations to them, is actually, tell them that. And to create a safe space means that you still create space in an organization, in meetings where you encourage the interns, you encourage everybody who doesn't necessarily have a title to speak up and to validate their ideas, to offer the solution in the meeting. You slow down, you do a 3-second rule. You don't say anything for 3 seconds and you let it sit. All right. And for you and for the group, right? So they go, oh, I thought it was a dumb idea, but he's actually thinking about it, you know. But that person feels like, oh, he heard me and he's actually thinking about it. And then you mindfully offer an answer, right? Instead of saying, oh, we just talked about it, or, oh, did you not read the thing, or whatever, right? You say, okay, I hear your response, and I believe that we might have, I believe we covered this just a little bit earlier, but if not, this is what I think, you know. So that's how you would go about doing that. So people feel that they have ownership, they feel that they have the power, they're empowered to actually say something. And that's when they're going to come to you and they feel like they have meaningful work, they have ownership in their own development, right? One question that we find really helpful, and you should write this down, is in the performance reviews that we do every 30 days, we ask them, what can we do for you to help you with your job, or something like that along those lines. Yeah. Did that answer your question? You can go ahead and just type it there. Okay, very good. It's not. Okay, so those seem to be the only questions that I have. No, there must be more. I feel like I'm missing one. No, I'm definitely missing one. There was a question somewhere in the chat before. Here it is. How to fire an unproductive team member. Woo! Okay, man, that's almost a workshop on its own, guys. But it depends. It definitely depends. And of course, you want to do it empathetically. So we do this. We do it often, because even though you're an empathetic company or an organization, you don't want to have people that are letting down the team. So for us, it started from our values document, actually. One of the first things that we said was that we are not a family at the idea. We're a team. I don't have to love you. I'm not your dad. So we're not a family. I don't, if you burn all these relationships with our customers, I don't have to keep you, because I'm not your father, I'm not your mother, I'm not your brother, I'm not your sister, I'm not your whatever, right? And I need to hold you accountable, because when you do things like that, it ruins it for every other person in the organization. And I need to justify that. So the first step is to make sure you are prepared, is to say, well, what does it mean to be unproductive? You actually need to have those metrics, KPIs ready, right? To make sure that you are firstly making the right decision, okay? And secondly, that you are preparing yourself that when they ask those questions, you're not just saying you're unproductive and it's no good, that you are actually offering feedback to them. Because if you want to do it empathetically, which is very helpful, because they don't leave thinking, oh, I hate this company and they did it badly and they're terrible, because that person is going to talk crap about your company, which is not good. But also for you, you walk away thinking that was not so bad. Like, I just let go of someone and it wasn't so bad. They didn't take it so bad. Like, okay, you know, and actually the company is better for it, because we will now replace them with someone who's actually got the skills, or someone who's motivated to do the role. So always do it in person. Don't do it through email unless you don't have a mouth. You know, so do it in person, because they're owed that person. It's their livelihood, their salary. It's how they pay to feed themselves, pay their rent. And so you want to give them that time of day. And also because at some point, for you and for them, it was a beautiful thing. There was hope that that person would be working with you, right? And it's a good thing to start there and say, hey, look, this hasn't quite worked out as what we were kind of expecting, maybe for you and for us, you know. And I don't want to daddle, but I'll tell you now, here are some of the reasons why, unfortunately, we're going to have to let you go. And this is what some of those things are. We'll go through those things and offer the feedback and say, hey, look, this is what I would recommend moving forward. Maybe because they've been doing it for a long time. And you might say, I don't know, but look, as a manager, I would say that maybe this is not quite your, or a technical person in this field, maybe that this might not be your field, but you have skills here that would be quite good in that direction, or in that department, or in that whatever. Right. But I do wish you the best. I don't want you to walk away from this feeling like you are suck at your, no, it's not suck at your job, that you don't have the capacity to work in this field anymore, or to have this kind of this level. So please take our feedback seriously. It took time for me I took the time out to think about you and to think about what's best. And I wish you all the best in your future. for example. So anyway, that's just me thinking top of mind how I would, if I had to fire someone right now, that was probably along the lines of what I would say. But certainly prepare yourself for it. So what constituted unproductive? Their feelings, your feelings. Make sure that you do a body scan, a check-in before you walk in. Do it in person. And this is enough for another workshop, actually. So I will leave it for another time because I now have other questions. Okay, but I hope that was helpful though. HOM, whoever that is. If not, ask me more questions on that. Okay, very good. Thank you for Akira for dropping those things in there. Okay, so a question here. How do you, which one came first? How to create a safe, performance-oriented work culture where employees don't feel threatened to perform, but understand the importance for delivering results? That is a very good, very specific, and also a very big question. We lightly covered this a moment ago with how do you get people to proactively come to you? How do you make them be proactive and not reactive? It's actually part and parcel with that. So giving space, listening before you answer, and I would say that it's a lot of, actually it's this exercise here with paraphrasing, a lot of paraphrasing yourself, because then you realize if I had said this, what I was going to say right away, that person would feel annoyed. That person would think, oh, they didn't quite like my work. They responded so quickly, or they didn't give enough context. They weren't specific enough. So if you read the praise, actually, you can follow some of that praise format that I just gave and would help you word a better dialogue to create that thing. Because people feel threatened because of what they hear, what they see, right? Because at the end of the day, people want to feel heard, appreciated, and understood. Heard, understood, and appreciated. Heard. I was going to say in that order. I believe it is heard, appreciated, understood, in that order. Heard, yes, you've heard me, appreciated. You like me? No. Heard, understood, appreciated. That's the right format. Heard, understood, appreciated. And so when those things don't check out, they feel like they're heard, but they don't feel like they're understood because all of their items are shut down. Then they're not understood. They actually do potentially feel a bit threatened. It's not like a good place to work in. It's not like necessarily even a safe space to work in because they're being heard, but none of the things they're saying, it's like, man, but you don't understand me. It's like I'm going to China and I don't speak Chinese. Like you hear me, yeah, and you're nodding, but man, you have no idea what I'm saying. You're like alone. You feel alone, right? So you want people to feel. The heard part is listening. So we're not going to cover that in too much detail because 3-second rule, shut up, just listen first and then speak, but think about what it is before you respond. Understood is paraphrasing what they've said. So they might have come to you in a meeting or in an email, or they've done something and they didn't say anything, but they've done something and you've seen, and you need to tell them and talk to them about it. You would paraphrase it in your own words and say, hey, look, I just saw that email. I'll use that example here with, I'm still sharing my screen with the angry one, but here, maybe they sent a client wrong information that they have to report to the client's boss. Your initial reaction might be, oh my God, dude, what did you do? Go and call them to ignore the last email before they present it to the boss. It's all wrong, man. Hurry and go do it now. That's the first response, right? But your paraphrase response, which will create a safe space and which takes time, right? Let me unlock it so I can make this bigger. Would be to say, hey, look, I know you're stressed and in a rush to get things done. And look, man, I feel the same way you do as well. We're really, really busy, but you got to value quality over speed, accuracy over timeliness. Because when we don't, we get potential disasters like this situation right now. Wouldn't you agree? They'll go, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so look, let's send the client an email asking them to ignore the last one and send the right one after, all right? Say, yeah, okay, great. So here in this situation, if in that one, it's like an angry response. It's not even a threat. There's no explicit threat here, or I will fire you, or that's your warning, or how could you, well, no, there's no threat here, but they feel threatened because there's no context. There's no, that's right, yeah, you're right. Thank you for taking the time to, sorry, I'm just going to listen. Keep talking, yep. Okay, right. but thank you for telling me, right? And look, the dialogue is also written in a way which gives context, and it's not just talking like the same points over why. It's also how, right? So this is how you would go ahead and create dialogue that creates a safe working space. Safe working space is, there's the physical aspect. There is, like not having a crocodile in your office. I don't know. I'm just putting stuff out there. That you have a first aid kit, for example. But a lot of it is really about your interactions with them and your interactions around the company. I hope that answered your question, Paul. If not, just go ahead and ask another question. How do you motivate people to go the extra mile? I will go back to the feeling heard, understood, and appreciated tenet that I just said. So we talked about heard, we talked about appreciated, so they don't feel like understood, so they feel alone. But appreciated is so that they feel like their work is meaningful. And meaningful, because meaningful work is not just like, hey, saving the planet. Meaningful work is that there is progress, and people need to feel that there is progress in their work. Because if they don't, then it's like, what am I even doing or working towards? All right. And even the most boring jobs like cleaning or like, I don't know, data entry can be meaningful to people if it's done in the right way. If there is check-in to say, hey, how are you going on that? Oh, that's great. Like, keep it up. Because just so you know, in terms of what's going on in the company, is that because you made this on time, we made our reports on time, and the profit thingy was made on time or whatever, and we met our goal, and now we can invest in this, and now we're able to grow in that area. And so they go, yeah, I don't have the skills to do all this other stuff, but I can do this. And I love that I'm doing it, and it's helpful for all these other people, right? So there's this aspect of making sure that they feel appreciated, checking in on them so they feel that there's progress in their work. And if you walk away from this, actually, I would say from that question, progress, I would say, is one of the most important things top of mind that you should be aware of, because it's what gives people genuine meaning to their work. That's not just saving the planet, because not everybody can save the planet, and not every work has anything to even do with helping communities or saving the planet, but they still need a salary. So how do you make your work appear meaningful or progressive, right? And it's to check in with them, it's to offer them advice where needed. Yeah, checking in, like I said before, is like the most powerful tool that you can do. Other things, like that I've covered just before, was making sure that they have a space to do things, to be creative, or to offer an opinion and actually have it heard, and these are non-monetary incentives. You have other incentives that you should be considering, of course, as well, like money, insurance, a staggered pay scale or a staggered incentive system. They get more and more and more with time, and or even equity at the end of this. So there is that level of motivation for people who resonate with that, and it's good and it's best to have a balance of both. You need both financial and non-monetary incentives to motivate people well and to go that extra mile. I will say, in my experience, and this might be like a bit controversial. It's not controversial. It's really about your recruitment. So you will have a team now that you will need to look at and truly consider if these people are going to be around for the next 5 years. If you have succession planning in mind, are these the kind of people that will stay there, or will they be promoted? How will they be promoted? How will the company grow so that they can be promoted, and so that you can be promoted, and that you will grow? Because this question has all to do with the very start of the process, which is, who are you bringing in? Where are they going in your company? And where are they going in your company? Sorry. So where are they in your company now, but where are they going in your company moving onwards? They should be able to see it, because if they don't see it, how do they go an extra mile? They can't even see the extra mile, right? So they need to be communicated what that is. You need a structure in place, so you're showing them what that mile looks like, and then they can start taking steps, right? Whether it's working extra hours, or it's doing an extra page in the report so that it's got even more information, so that's how you would go ahead and do it. I think I answered that question. I think. If not, let me know if you've got further questions on that. People are excusing themselves for leaving. No worries. Go ahead. Okay, very good. Right. I think that's it. There seems to be no more questions. And we were only 20 minutes over. I mean, for Q&A anyway, but I think we did most of the exercises. Right. So we have one last poll, guys. I hope you don't mind. We've still got 30-something people here. So if please help me answer this poll. Virak will send also in the Zoom a feedback form. I would really love to get feedback on this. So let me know. And he's put it in the chat, but we'll also send it later. We've got 4 questions. So how do you feel about creating empathy in your workplace now? You know, are you more, and even though I'm here, please be candid, because if it's not honest, it's not useful, because I want to improve how this is working. Was this workshop helpful for you? And number 3, did you know this workshop was prepared by Pep Talks, the forum? And we actually have more workshops like this every week, actually, as part of, like, it's like CSR in a way that we're doing. And there's all kinds. We just did one on negotiation. The upcoming ones on how to organize a really good internship, or how to win in your internship. Contracts, how to read and understand your employee contract. So a lot of great content coming up very soon. And lastly, yeah, would you be interested in joining a full Leading with Empathy course? This one was free because I can't feed my kids or other people's kids even with free. So we do have a paid course. We will continue doing some pro bono workshops. The paid ones are usually, just so you know, for companies, and it's specifically for that company. And so usually we walk away with a journey, with scripts, with even HR policy specific for that company that they can use right away. And that's where they pay the full rate. But otherwise, we have some public ones which you get a certificate from. They're like 2 half days that you would join, and then you have exhibited that you can paraphrase, create your own journey, or you can do any of the other things, like have tough dialogue, or do marketing with empathy, or customer journeys with empathy. So we have a lot of other courses there. Cool. Oh, but that's really great that not many people knew about the farm. So this is a good awareness thing, right? More confident. Okay. Practice, but more confident. Think we need more help. Okay, so I'm gonna about half of you guys have answered this poll. I would love if like the other 10 more people could answer. That would be very helpful for me. Cool. But if you need to go, go ahead. I don't have anything else to add other than random meaningless talk, unless there are questions that you'd like us to answer. Thank you again to Virak, and of course to our sponsors, DDD and the capacity specialists, for making this possible. And of course, the idea team. The idea is really the one sponsoring this whole thing. And awesome, Virak. You have been an awesome, helpful, technical host and partner. Cool. I would end it there. Thank you very much, everybody, for answering the poll. Please help with the survey. It's like a minute. It's just 1 minute, super fast. And these are the results. So all in all, there was like one person who was undecided about the workshop, unsure if it was helpful for them. That's okay. But for everybody else, it was helpful. Awesome. Very good. Cool. Thank you. I wish you all a fantastic week ahead, guys. Really, just the fact that you guys turned up is great. I hope that we have more empathy in all the workplaces in the world, because the world right now really needs it. So thank you again. Som Okun, and have a good weekend. And don't forget to call your parents. I need to do that right now. So I'll see you later. Bye-bye.